discuss today the modern origins of May Day, given the fact that today is May Day 2018. And this is a blog I discovered in my files that goes back maybe 5 or 6 years. So I'm just going to read it, but I want to preface it by pointing out that the origins of the May Day holiday actually are pagan. The maypole has a pagan origin that goes back to biblical references to the Asherah pole, which was something that was set up by the ancient Canaanites to engage in various worship activities, including orgies and child murders and everything else. So I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the New Age orientation of it, although that's very relevant, as New Ageism, neo-paganism was the primary belief of the Nazi movement and of the 1960s counterculture. Instead, I'm talking about the modern development of May Day as a communist holiday. And I'm just going to read from my old blog here. On May 1st, 1776, Adam Weishaupt, a professor of Canon Law at the University of Ingolstadt, established a secret society in Munich, Bavaria, known as the Order of the Illuminati. From that time until today, May Day, which has its origins in ancient Rome, or actually ancient Palestine, or ancient Canaan, has been observed as an international holiday by socialists, communists, and other so-called progressives. The modern origin of May Day is well known and is viewed as accepted history in Europe, yet the origins of May Day, which commemorate the founding of the Illuminati, is virtually unknown to Americans. Adam Weishaupt described the immediate goal of his secret society, originally called the Perfectibilists, as nothing short of the abolition of the monarchies and the abolition of religion in Europe. The ultimate goal of the Illuminati, a goal which it was to be achieved gradually, was what Weishaupt, who used the code name Spartacus in his secret society, referred to in his writings as the creation of, quote, a new world order, unquote. The Illuminati then, like the left today, was largely made up of wealthy, aristocratic types and middle-class intellectuals, those to whom we now refer to as the top 1% and their supporters. The exclusive club back then, as it does today, marketed itself as champions of the poor while gradually gathering the strands of wealth, power, and influence into their own hidden hands. Now, let me just pause here and say that I'm not suggesting that there is an order of the Illuminati today. I have no idea. I'm not privy to anything. I'm not a member of any. I've never been a member of any secret society myself. I mean, the biggest thing I've ever been a member of maybe is the YMCA. I don't know from any real evidence that this exists. I don't really care. It's not. The important thing is that the ideas and the philosophies and the goals and the tactics, quite frankly, that were established by Weishaupt and the Illuminati, which is historic, are still in play today. They've advanced. It's not really, I actually don't think it is a secret society. I believe that it's what Whittaker Chambers, the author of Witness, called a conspiracy of gentlemen, or to today's world, a conspiracy of ladies and gentlemen. People who tend to think alike, people who tend to be the top 1% richest, people who tend to be part of that scene, they're the beautiful people. They're useful to that crowd. And that they are globalists. They're anti-religion generally. They're atheistic. And they do believe in this idea of a world order that is controlled by unelected government. It's like controlled by bureaucracies, the administrative state, interacting and interfacing with administrative states around the world. It's a similar view to Weishaupt. It's a little less formal than what Weishaupt had in mind, but the philosophy of it fascinates me, and that's the relevant point here. Okay, back to my blog. After its 1776 founding, that being the Illuminati, which was ironically the same year as the issuance of the freedom-oriented American Declaration of Independence, The Illuminati spread rapidly across Europe by means of its initiates infiltrating and attempting to dominate the already existing and generally conservative Freemasonic lodges of the major European cities. The Illuminati was exposed when a courier carrying its secret papers was arrested in Bavaria in 1784. Further investigation by the Bavarian authorities led to the banishment of Weishaupt and his organization. Weishaupt spent the rest of his life under surveillance as a court counselor to Duke Ernst of the Duchy of Gotha, where he died in 1811. In exile, Weishaupt wrote A Complete History of the Persecutions of the Illuminati in Bavaria in 1785, A Picture of Illuminism, 1786, An Apology for the Illuminati, 1786, and An Improved System of Illuminism, 1787. According to French Jesuit priest Augustin Barruel, 1741-1828, who published an authoritative 4-volume set entitled Memoirs Illustrating the History of Jacobinism, 1798-1799, the Illuminati established the Jacobin Club that would subvert and disseminate the otherwise peaceful and pro-American 1789 French Revolution of 1793. The Jacobins, who were responsible for beheading the popular French king, Louis XVI, and his wife, Marie Antoinette, launched the Reign of Terror and established the world's first communist regime. Father Barruel claimed to have gathered his information for his books from the Illuminati papers that had been confiscated by the Bavarian authorities. Now, let me just comment on this a little bit here. The French Revolution was a reaction to the American Revolution. France was our main ally in 1776, 1781. It was French naval forces off the coast of Yorktown that fought the British in the Battle of the Chesapeake. It was the only battle that the French actually beat the British. And that allowed George Washington to surround General Cornwallis's and trap Cornwallis's army in Yorktown and win the war. There was, Lafayette and others who helped America, helped Washington. So they were our main allies. They also loaned a lot of money to the Continental Congress at great expense. And in fact, it's one of the reasons why Louis XVI was having trouble in Europe. I mean, he overextended their money, their debt. And Louis XVI was a great hero in America. The city of Louisville in Kentucky is named for him. The city of Orleans, or the town of Orleans on Cape Cod here in Massachusetts, is named for Duke d'Orléans, which I think that was one of his titles, is my understanding. He was revered in this country because he was our main ally. The French Revolution actually took place in 1789, the same year that Washington became president, when Louis XVI convened the National Assembly, the General Assembly, and then they proceeded to draw up a constitution. The idea was that Louis XVI would be a constitutional monarch and that he would cede a lot of his governing powers to the Assembly. Now, whether he wanted to do that or not is beside the point. The fact is that he did it, and that was the French Revolution, which was peaceful. It actually went off without a shot. And that the aspirations of the French people was to have an American-style system. They admired America. You should note that Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, they spent the war years in Paris, and they were greatly admired, and they were consulted. I mean, Jefferson was consulted in 1789 in the drawing up of the original Constitution. But what happened was that this whole process was subverted by underground groups, with the main one being the Jacobin Club, which, according to Abbe Barruel, was a wing of the Illuminati. I don't know if that's true or not. That's according to him and others. And that they subverted it and turned it into a communist coup, which took place in 1793 and which led to the Reign of Terror and the world's first communist nation in all of its horrors. and its massacres and its totalitarianism and its regression. It was a regressive movement. It was an attempt to reestablish absolute rule, except without a king, it would be with an enlightened elite. And it was a step away from what was a genuinely progressive wind in France at that time, the American wind, the move toward limited government, the move toward diffusion of power. That threatened the establishment, which is why the Jacobin Club was successful. Anyway, getting back to my essay here. On May Day, George Washington, whose presidency coincided with the Jacobin Reign of Terror, expressed concern about the Illuminati come to America. In a letter archived in the Library of Congress dated October 24th, 1798, Washington at that point was retired, in which he wrote, quote, "It was not my intention to doubt that the doctrines of the Illuminati and principles of Jacobinism had not spread in the United States. On the contrary, no one is more truly satisfied of this fact than am I. Whether the Illuminati continue in the formal sense is not known and is not relevant. What is known is that the ideas initiated by the Illuminati, ideas that were expounded upon by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, continue marching through history. Marx's manifesto expanded the initial proposition of Weishaupt, an end to governments and Christianity, as a means to create a new world order, by proposing, in addition to an end to private property, the family, business, free trade, and indeed to end individual identity itself. Once these goals were accomplished, according to Marx, once mankind had become collectivized, then all government would wither away and man would become living in a state of perfect equality. In other words, the one world beehive. May Day should be observed as a day to remember the tens of millions of victims of this demented utopian fantasy, one that was launched on that day by Adam Weishaupt. Their blood cries out from the grave for truth and justice. Anyway, thank you very much. Those are my observations with regard to the origins of May Day. We should keep it in mind as we watch people marching around the world. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody.